Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's wonderful to be with you this morning. I am the Reverend William Levewood. My pronouns are he and him. I'm affectionately known as Rev Lev, and I'm the minister here at Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church. We're so happy that you decided to join us this morning. I invite you to take a deep breath as we center ourselves for worship.
I'm Christina Watts, and my pronouns are she and her, and I am happy to be your worship associate today. This congregation is a welcoming and inclusive spiritual home where we inspire each other to live out our values. Together, we care in community, grow in spirit, and act for justice. Whether you're a longtime member or a newcomer or something in between, we're so delighted that you decided to join us today. Welcome.
I know we might sometimes feel like we lose touch with that light, or like it's been put out, that we feel like we lose touch with that joy or that hope or that pride or that love, and yet it's there. That's what those songs are telling us. It's always there for us. The source of joy, the source of pride, the source of hope is there for us. The world didn't give it, and the world can't take it away. So we've got to let that light shine. So this month, our Soul Matters theme is repair. And 2 Sundays ago, I talked about how repair, different from healing. Healing is rooted in our essential wholeness and can happen with or without other people. It can be helped along by other people, but it doesn't need other people. Repair, on the other hand, happens in relationship with other people, and we do it together. So during that service, there was a moment where Dale Howell shared that his pronouns were person. And I had this thought, I was like, I've never heard that before. And it kind of sounded flippant. I've heard people make flippant comments about pronouns. And so I went over and checked in with Dale, and I want to make one thing clear, that I certainly didn't tell Dale what he had to do, okay? I just said, hey, I wonder if that might have been offensive, and if you'd like to come up and give an apology and embody repair. So Dale did do that, but then I had more conversation with Dale, and I found out that it wasn't flippant at all, that he'd actually put a lot of thought into that choice of pronoun and into like questions of masculinity and what it means to say your pronouns are he, him, and whether he really feels comfortable with that. And then it's actually, I don't know about person, but per and purse, coming from person, is a pronoun that goes a long ways back from a book that Marge Piercy, the poet who has words in our hymnal from a novel that she wrote, I think in the 70s or early 80s. So all of this is to say that the repair in relationship continues. So I think it was beautiful that Dale had the humility to come up and acknowledge that maybe that could have been offensive, but it turns out that I was the one that was mistaken. And so I'm standing up here to tell you all that, and to, again, model repair, model that we can and will make mistakes, but that, as I often say, there's always a next move, meaning as long as we stay in a relationship and we're committed to repair and taking the actions that build repair, and I'm not just telling you this publicly now, Dale and I have had further conversation. I've apologized personally to him, and it wasn't just a quick apology. We had a deep conversation, and I hope also that some conversation and dialogue was prompted by that moment. I know it was for me. I have my own misgivings and conundrums about my pronouns, particularly similar in some ways to Dale's about using he and him. And I've had some conversations that have me thinking differently about that. I might start using he, they. I'm not sure, but I'm likewise looking for the right things. And we always want to respect people's pronouns, whatever they are, when they're when they're well thought through and have meaning for them. So an apology to Dale, and I wanted to make that publicly to all of you. So we're talking about repair, this month, and I said last Sunday, and I almost regret it, but I don't, but I almost do. I said last Sunday that this Sunday I was going to talk about the real Christianity. And then, the whole week I've been like, wow, that's kind of a big task to give myself to do in one service. But I think I'm up for it. I hope that you see actually every moment of the service, not just my sermonic words, but the songs we were just singing, as a repair and a reclaiming of the true prophetic Christianity that calls us to root ourselves in a love that cannot be taken away from us. That's the true meaning of resurrection in my understanding of it, is that love cannot be killed. That love lives on no matter what. So root ourselves in that, and then we show up for other people, especially those most vulnerable. So as a way of embodying that, we're going to have bread and cider communion today, which isn't exactly Eucharist, right? Because that uses wine, but it's pretty similar to the Christian Eucharist. And in the Christian tradition, this is from one of our UU colleagues, a director of religious education and a professor at Starr King School for the Ministry, Sherry Prudhomme. She says that in the Christian tradition, the disciples broke bread during a Passover meal, remembering an escape to freedom on the eve of a crucifixion, when yet another imperial ruling power was asserting its dominance through violence. They broke bread together in the depth of their grief and fear, asserting that the forces of empire, violence, and evil would not extinguish the forces of life and love. And we have also, Unitarian Universalism draws from Christianity, but we're not, and you might feel still connected to Christianity or newly connected to Christianity in your own spirituality, but we're not a Christian faith anymore. However, there are Unitarians that we're in communion with, particularly in Transylvania, in Romania, who are Unitarian Christians in the more traditional sense. And those Unitarian Christians in Transylvania, they take the Eucharist, they have a communion 4 times a year, at Christmas, at Easter, at Pentecost, and at Thanksgiving, which is not the American Thanksgiving. It's a religious version of Thanksgiving that actually happens in September. But I bring that up because this is near our Thanksgiving time, and I find the bread and cider communion a powerful way to express gratitude, a commitment to generosity, and also to this deep, abiding love that cannot be taken away. So when you came in, you may have been offered a little booklet and something to write or draw with. Where do we have those if people still need those? We've got ushers here, so you can raise your hand, and Pat will bring those around. I see a lot of hands raised of folks who'd like the booklet. So we got a lot of feelings right now, and we focused more on that last week. But this, I'm inviting you into a practice that we're calling What Are Feelings For? So the practice is to take one of these books and write happy and draw a picture. These are pretty good pictures, better than I could draw. And it doesn't have to be a face. Maybe you're happy as a campfire, or maybe you're angry as a flaming chalice, or you're sad is raindrops. But you take, and I would recommend doing 1 per page, because then there's another step. Okay? The next step is not only to think about the emotion, but what does that emotion call you to? So I think it's important. That song says we're a gentle, angry people. We have a tradition that is non-dualistic. It doesn't believe that there's one energy or way of being in the world that is always the way to be. Life is more various and diverse than that. So I invite you to think about, if you're feeling anger, what is the powerful, productive use of that anger, right? In our bodies, we know that anger is what we feel when we need to protect ourselves from harm in some way, right? It mobilizes our bodies. You can feel it in your muscles. Or sadness. Sadness calls us to slow down and to reflect. When I think of fear, I think about holding an infant. Maybe you don't think of that yourself, but I think about the care that I feel because I know I've got this fragile being in my arms, and I don't want to bump its head against a corner of a dresser or something, so I'm extra careful. That's a proper use of fear, right? To inspire us to be cautious and careful. So you're invited throughout the service to be musing on, to be reflecting on, and to be creatively exploring your emotions and what those emotions are for. And maybe it's different than the examples I gave. Maybe you draw more than one anger, right? Because you have different things that anger calls you to, different things that sadness calls you to in different moments. So that's our offering today for you to explore in our multi-generational service. We have these multi-generational services every third Sunday, and that means we all stay in the sanctuary. On other Sundays, our children and youth join us for the first part of the service until the story, which I'm about to share, and then they usually leave. But on this Sunday, we stay all together throughout the whole service. So, I have the Wonder Box up here. And anybody have any idea what might be in the Wonder Box? I'm not giving any clues, so you probably won't get it right. But any thoughts? Just shout them out, and I'll repeat them. What do you think could be in the Wonder Box? Huh? Unicorn. A unicorn! Ooh, I wish. Jack in the Box? Wonderful. Something wonderful? Okay, I think that actually is in there. Elsa! Oh, we could use Elsa right now, somebody who can control the weather. throw up that frozen ice to block the flood from destroying the city. That'd be good. Okay, let's see what we got. It's a little bit like Elsa in a way, or what we need since we don't have Elsa. It's an umbrella. A singular umbrella, but an umbrella that might give birth to other umbrellas. So I'm going to share a story, okay, about this umbrella. Ella, Ella, Ella. Somebody caught the Rihanna reference right there. Okay, so what is an umbrella used for? What's it used for? When it's raining, yeah, or also for shade, yeah. For protection, yeah. Making song quotes, okay, yeah, I mean, I did just do that. So mostly it's about rain, and we have a story today from Tim Atkins, who's the director of religious education at UU Congregation in Oklahoma. And there's two important parts in this story where I need your help. So whenever I say boom, I need you to shout boom as loud as you can. So let's practice. Boom. Nice, nice. And then there will be times when I say the word sanctuary. When I say the word sanctuary, I want you to quietly say sanctuary. So let's try that. Sanctuary. Perfect. Ooh, I didn't know how good that whispered sanctuary was going to feel. So here's our story. Be ready for your parts. Once upon a time, there was a little girl just like you who was caught outside in a sudden rainstorm. And she didn't have an umbrella, so she ran inside to the nearest store to wait out the storm. And as soon as she closed the door, a bright flash and a loud boom. Pretty good. Let's try it one more time, though. A loud boom. There we go. Of thunder followed. The little girl knew that she would be stuck in that store for quite a while. She started to look around at some of the different items in the store when the shopkeeper appeared. Now, the shopkeeper was the oldest woman the little girl had ever seen. Her hair was as white as snow and her face was all wrinkly. The little girl was brave enough to admit she was a little scared. "Young woman," said the old shopkeep, "can I help you with something?" The little girl pointed outside, too afraid to talk. "Ah," said the old shopkeep, "did you run in here to escape the rain?" The girl nodded slowly as another loud boom of thunder shook the store. "Well," she said, "you can wait here if you'd like, in my little sanctuary." Let's try that one again. In my little sanctuary. Oh, feels so good. "We've got a nice sturdy roof over our heads, and it will keep you safe and dry." The little girl appreciated the offer, but she really needed to get back outside and continue on her way. The old shopkeep could tell the little girl was hesitating, so she said, "Or you could head back outside with this." And the old shopkeep went behind the counter and, oh, I'm giving you a hint. What do you think she pulled out? Umbrella. That's right, an umbrella. "Take this umbrella," said the old shopkeep. "I don't know why it's raining, but I do know that you can keep dry under this portable sanctuary." The little girl beamed, but then she stopped in her tracks. "I don't have any money," said the little girl. But the old shopkeeper waved her off. "No worries, little girl, just be sure to offer the umbrella to someone else when they need it." So the little girl accepted the umbrella, headed back outside, opened it up, and went on her way. The little girl was happy and dry. She started skipping down the street and was perfectly happy when she saw a man wearing a suit trying to keep dry with a newspaper over his head. She heard another loud boom, and the newspaper began to fall apart under the heavy rain. She skipped over to the man in the suit and held the umbrella up as high as she could. "Thank you," said the man. Remembering the words from the old shopkeep, the little girl told the man, "I don't know why it's raining, but I do know that you can keep dry with me under this portable sanctuary." The man smiled in relief. He had been having a really bad day. You see, he was wearing a suit because he was on his way to a job interview. He had been without work for a long, long time and was feeling very desperate. He even had to walk to the interview because he couldn't afford a car. And when it started to rain, he cursed his luck because he knew he was going to show up to this really important job interview soaked. And he was worried that it wouldn't make a good first impression. Now, the girl noticed that her family was in a store across the street. So she said, "Here, take the umbrella with you. I see my family right over there across the street." The man, feeling guilty, said, "Oh, I couldn't take your umbrella." But the girl said, "No, take it. Just be sure to offer the umbrella to someone else when they need it." The little girl put the umbrella into his hands and then ran off to meet her family. The man couldn't believe how nice the little girl was. He knew he had to hurry because it was almost time for his important interview, so he did. He hurried off, and another boom of thunder caused him to start running. Well, I want to tell you that the man got that job he was interviewing for, and soon enough he was able to afford to buy a few umbrellas of his own. And whenever it would rain, he would bring not only his umbrella, but that the little girl had given him, but he would bring 2 more small umbrellas to give away to people who were stuck outside in the rain. And every time he gave away an umbrella, he would say, "I don't know why it's raining, but I do know that you can keep dry under this portable sanctuary." And soon, everyone in their town had an umbrella that they would take with them. And if the townspeople passed by someone without an umbrella, they would give up their own umbrella and pass on the words, now known by the entire town. I don't know why it's raining, but I do know that you can keep dry under this portable sanctuary. So we're going to continue in a spirit of meditation. Brad's going to lead us in a chant. It's going to have two parts, and we're going to sing, and then I'm going to lead us in a bit of a meditation, then we're going to sing some more.
We'll sing this one through a few times. Some of you might be familiar with this particular chant. I grew up with this one in my church, and this one is adapted for our own purposes here today. If you don't know it, feel free to sit out the first time and then join in when you feel comfortable. Please prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving. I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Please prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving. I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Please prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving. I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
We don't practice confession so much in our tradition, but I want to invite you into a practice of confession this morning, because that's part of how we make ourselves a living sanctuary. And I've been hearing in my mind a lot this past week and a half the phrase, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Right? Those words from Jesus. Although I think when we're saying it, we should recite it as, forgive us, for we know not what we do. So I want to offer us into a contemplation of both the ways that we are missing the mark, the ways in particular that our actions, or even just our complicity in systems of oppression, have caused us to not show up for those most vulnerable. How are you not showing up for those most vulnerable? But also, let's include everybody. But let's include it as a confession, right? So even those folks, for those things that you think they might not confess for, you can confess on their behalf. Does that make sense? So just bring that to mind. Bring to mind the ways that you give in to greed, the ways that you give in to self-centeredness, putting your own well-being or the well-being of your immediate family above the greater good. We all do it. It's hard not to, and it even feels justifiable, and I don't know, maybe it is, but still, it creates hurt and harm in the world. Bring to mind those moments when your anger is not for protection, but when you use it to lash out and cause harm to others, when it verges on hatred. Bring to mind those moments when you're not able to bridge the gap with another person. You have a misunderstanding, you're unable to find common ground. And for all of these things and many more, let's offer ourselves and offer the world forgiveness. Not a forgiveness that says it's over and done with, but a forgiveness that encourages us to continue to do the work of repair that happens in relationship. A forgiveness that helps us not sink into shame, but inspires us to be that living sanctuary for ourselves and for others. So let's actually have the other lyrics on the screen, and we're going to sing those lyrics one more time. Prepare me to be a sanctuary. And then we'll get to the other lyrics.
Please prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
That practice of confession and making ourselves a living sanctuary prepares us for the Eucharist, for our version of communion that we'll do in a little bit later in the service, but it doesn't end there. So we're going to sing with these other lyrics that are a real big adaptation from the original, because Jesus was a revolutionary who was calling for the overthrow of an empire from the inside out, from transformed hearts, and a person who welcomed to the table everybody. In the Bible, it's described that he welcomes sinners, but I'm not even convinced that he was certain that those people were sinners. Does that make sense? I'm not certain that he was condemning them for the things others were calling sins necessarily, but regardless, whether they were real mistakes or just things that were condemned by their society around them, he was inviting everybody to the welcome table, which is a revolutionary act. And we make ourselves a living sanctuary also in preparation to be revolutionaries like that. So now we're going to sing about that together.
Love, please make me a revolutionary, filled with fury, bold the call, with compassion, we will take action, seeking justice for all. Lord, please make me a revolutionary, filled with fury, bold the call, with compassion, we will take action, seeking justice for all.
The truly humble are embraced by love. They will be healed and made whole. The deeply compassionate are embraced by love. The strength of their love will bring them comfort. Those who have surrendered their will are embraced by love. For them, the world will be transformed. Those who work for justice are embraced by love. They will experience the fulfillment of their work. Those whose generosity of spirit is boundless are embraced by love. Boundless love will be returned to them. Those devoted to a love of integrity are embraced by love. They will know true wisdom. The makers of peace are embraced by love. They are the embodiment of the Spirit of life. Those who endure persecution, persisting in the struggle, are embraced by love. They will be healed and made whole. Those who are persecuted, slandered, and oppressed for their commitment to truth are embraced by love. This is the confirmation that you are on the right path. Keep your head up and your heart open. This is how revolutionaries of the Spirit have been dealt with in all times and places.
So what you just heard is a free translation of the Beatitudes from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. The truly humble are embraced by love. They will be healed and made whole. That's just another way of saying, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. I think it can be helpful to take a familiar scripture and hear it in a new way with a slightly different interpretation. The deeply compassionate are embraced by love. The strength of their love will bring them comfort. Another way of saying, blessed are those who mourn. They will be comforted. Those who have surrendered their will are embraced by love. For them, the world will be transformed. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. I mentioned the revolutionary nature of Jesus, of his message of good news, of his example of the crucifixion of the Spirit of love and the resurrection of that same Spirit of love. And Jesus was a revolutionary for this kingdom of heaven, or sometimes he called it the kingdom of God. But I think if we were to reinterpret those words as these other beatitude words are being reinterpreted, we would say the beloved community. That's how we would describe what he's calling the kingdom of heaven. And I think beloved community is part of what it means to be a living sanctuary, of what it means to be a place where all together can eat at the welcome table. And I've spoken about this before, but beloved community has two parts. I think we can get too amorphous about what that means, but it has two parts, and those two parts are inclusion and equity. So inclusion means that beloved community is for all people, no exceptions. That means beloved community is a celebration of the inherent dignity of all people, all genders, all sexualities, all cultures, citizens and refugees, city folk and country folk, flamboyant queens and quiet stoics, the rich and the poor and everybody in between. Beloved community is a celebration and an embrace of the inherent dignity of all people. Roxane Gay, writing in an op-ed that was published today in the New York Times, urges us to continue to hold fast to our values of inclusion and showing up for the most vulnerable. She writes, to suggest we should yield even a little to today's odious politics, to suggest that we should compromise on the rights of trans people, for instance, and all of the other critical issues we care most about is unacceptable. It is shameful and cowardly. We cannot abandon the most vulnerable communities to assuage the most powerful. And even if we did, she writes, it would never be enough. Beloved community is a celebration and embrace of the inherent dignity of all people, a steadfast commitment to that value. Beloved community is inclusive, and beloved community is also equitable. Equitable means that we not only celebrate that every person is a sacred being, celebrated for all of who they are, but that we are committed to bringing about a world where every person is thriving, is flourishing. And that means, I think we get on our heads in the clouds a little bit, and we need to go down to that first level on that pyramid of needs. I'm forgetting the names of that theorist. What's the pyramid of needs? Maslow, thank you. At a bare minimum, if every person is thriving and flourishing, that means every person has an abundance of good, healthy food to eat, clean water to drink, a roof over their head, medical care when they need it, time to rest, enjoy leisure and recreation. The Lord's Prayer, the central prayer of Christianity, begins with the words, "Give us this day our daily bread." Christianity, real Christianity, isn't that complicated, y'all. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Embracing and celebrating everybody's inherent dignity. That's one I think we, as Unitarian Universalists, as liberals, we do that one quite well in the larger scheme of things. We could do better, but we do it quite well in the larger scheme of things. But love your neighbor as you love yourself also means that every person's material needs are taken care of. Not extravagantly, but enough so that every person can thrive and flourish with dignity. Give us this day our daily bread. We'll embody this in an important way after the service with our meal packing for those who are food insecure. But the work, we know, we need to do that work. Please hear me correctly. We need to do that work, but we also need to look upstream. And we need to be deconstructing the systems that cause people to be hungry and in need in the first place. And I have to say, in the United States of America, I don't think any of us do that very well. Forgive us, for we know not what we do. There are too many people in this country who don't have their daily bread of bread. They don't have their daily bread of clean water. They don't have their daily bread of adequate, affordable shelter. They don't have their daily bread of health care. And across the board, who has time for rest and leisure anymore? Although I have to admit, I have those things, most of those things, most of the time. And I imagine that most of you have most of those things most of the time. So I want to name that this is real Christianity. This is what it's about. It's not that complicated. Don't be confused. Don't let it be distorted by a few people, including many who call themselves Christians, who are not living out this calling. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Give us this day our daily bread. We are called to be a gentle, angry, loving, justice-seeking people. And we're called to do that even if it brings persecution or oppression or further marginalization onto us or onto our neighbors. Because we know that you cannot take away or kill our love. This joy that we have, you didn't give it to us and you cannot take it away. This love, the world didn't give it and the world can't take it away. That love is enduring and eternal. Even when it looks for a moment like it's been vanquished, this enduring love is just choosing to suffer along with all the sufferers, to take up that sacred cross. And then this love is resurrected. It's resurrected in every moment that we choose to come together in solidarity with all who are persecuted, with all who are oppressed, with all who mourn and are in need of comfort. So today, let's commit to stop crucifying others with our greed and our hatred, and instead of bringing deaths of flesh and deaths of spirit to others, the death we need is the death of our own selfish and arrogant egos. Let us die that death so that we might be resurrected to a new life rooted in love, acceptance, humility, justice, mercy, generosity, compassion, and care. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Give us this day our daily bread. And with that, we're going to take communion in a moment. So I mentioned that it's similar to the Christian Eucharist, but I want to define for us what this bread and this cider symbolizes. We could say that the broken bread is the bread of a broken world and of our broken hearts. Hearts broken open by shared suffering into compassionate love for all beings and for the very earth we call home. We could say that the cider is like a golden honey of abundance, the gifts of the world given freely by the earth. And yet that cider is not shared freely, and by taking in this golden flowing abundance, we recommit to sharing the earth's gifts freely and generously with all beings, with all people, so that all may flourish and thrive together as one body. So take the bread, take the cider. May this bread symbolize our commitment to working so that everybody's material needs are met. And may this cider represent that inclusion so that everyone feels welcomed for all of who they are. Let us take communion together. Please remain standing if you're standing. This is from Lisa Garcia Sampson. Spirit of life and love, spirit that lives within us and between us and among us right now. Within this beloved community and in our work for collective liberation, may we continue to weave the web of trust and care to keep our bodies safe. But more than that, may our bodies be the site of healing, joy, and freedom. May we refuse to let our spirits be depleted and hardened by the forces of hate. Instead, may we open ourselves to be nourished and transformed by the movement for justice, knowing that our collective story is not what we are fighting against, but what we are fighting for. For ours is the work of creation. Ours is the work of inviting people into an irresistible movement rooted in our belief that a new world is possible. And the center of our work is love and joy and the spirit of abundance. These are the things we are fighting for, and these are the things we are fighting with. May we know deep in our bones that this is the call of our faith. May it be so. May we be among those who continue to make it so. Amen, 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 and blessed be.
All right, please rise now in body or in spirit and join in our closing words. As we extinguish our chalice, I invite you to join me now in our community blessing with these words of David Bumbaugh, slightly adapted. This church is dedicated to the proposition that by celebrating our differences and embracing our diversity, we honor the unity that makes us one and binds us forever together in spite of time, death, and the space between the stars. We pause now in silent unity. Now that we've gathered together in this welcoming and inclusive spiritual home, let us go out into the world nourished, rejuvenated, and inspired to share our values. Thank you.